Welcome to a new episode of Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid Ahmed. Welcome to a new episode of Hacks and Hobbies. In this episode, I'm going to recount my experience as it were one of the first times I got to speak in front of a audience to talk about video. And I've been talking about these tips on the podcast for the past week. It's really different experience when you're in front of an audience and you start to speak and they're paying attention, right? That's the most freakiest thing is when people are paying attention to your words and you're like, all right, I got to make sure that I say the right thing. It was a mind-boggling experience that I got to experience yesterday. Luckily, my friend and my friend was um, happy enough to come up on the stage with me because he saw from the corner that I was nervous and losing my words. But I was catching on. I was just getting warmed up, right? It takes a little bit, but people were probably getting anxious. So, what did I talk about? And how did it go? Well, I talked about at least 4 or 5 tips on video, and I got back a barrage of questions because people wanted to know. They came prepared with their questions, and it was uh, it was good to hear some intelligent questions, some simple ones, of course, and I was able to um, answer those questions accurately. And of course, Rod Ferrier helped a lot as well. He came up and he would set up the question with a proper answer and proper question or it was just different. I recorded a video. I shot it in 4K and of the entire event or stuff happening up there, and it's 38 gigabytes. It's pretty big. I need to share it with Rod. I will share it once I'm in Wi-Fi range, so I don't want to be eating up my data on my iPad because I've already gone over 53 gigabytes of data on my iPhone because Google Photos decided to back up my entire library in the background on cellular data. So I was like, nope, no, don't do that. And I'm getting good. I'm still getting unlimited data, but they sent the message saying that, hey, if there is some congestion in an area, you might experience lower speeds of data. Like, all right, be careful. So the video experience was good, talking about it, answering questions, and standing up there, sweating profusely. My entire forehead was wet and I could feel it. And I was like, should I wipe it? Should I just leave it up there? I should have wiped it now that I look at the footage of the video. Now, why did I shoot the video in 4K? Well, one of the reasons you want to shoot video in 4K is so that you've got all the detail that you can work with. You can downsample that video later on for editing and for posting, but capturing it in the highest resolution possible is a good way to go, especially if you're recording your video on a mobile device. Now, I've mentioned this before, but mobile device has a video sensor photo sensor the size of your fingertip, sometimes even smaller. Fingertip size would be a pretty nice sized sensor actually. So yeah, you want to shoot as high as possible, um, and then downsample it. So what are the tips that I talked about? Let me get into those tips and then I can talk about stuff that I missed out. So the first tip that I talked about was lighting. Having adequate lighting for your subjects, for yourself. If you're doing a self video, you want to make sure that you have adequate lighting, especially if you're indoors. If you're shooting video outdoors, you want to avoid direct sunlight. So be in the shade and shoot that video because you can have plenty of lighting. Make sure the sun is not behind you. Some of the good times of shooting is in the shade when the sun is right directly above you. You can even shoot video in nice cloudy weather because that creates diffused lighting. And diffused lighting is the best kind of lighting. It avoids that harsh shadows, which sometimes come as off-putting. So having good lighting is important. And I had two types of lights up, a rectangular LED panel, which was not bright enough for my liking for the setup that we had. Again, anytime you're setting up a video, the light source is going to be closer to your face rather than far away where I had it. A big softbox with a even brighter light would have been the perfect thing to go with, but since we're just showing off the kind of equipment you need, it was good enough. The second one was a ring light. A ring light is an amazing invention. A big ring light as big as 18 inches or even 20 inches. What that enables is you can put the camera right in the middle of the ring, and now you have lights coming all around your face and cutting out all of that shadow that you might get if from a single directional light. So important to have different types of light set up, and there's a ton of video, there's a ton of content out there on what to do with lighting when you're setting it up for a video shoot. The second tip that I talked about was the orientation of your camera. Do you want to do it horizontal video or landscape, or do you want to do portrait video, which is vertical? Now, I didn't go too deep into it, but I did mention that because we are consuming content in two forms, we're consuming content vertically on our phones, on our tablets, not so much on tablets, but mostly on phones, and we're using our mobile phone a lot more. There's a lot more audience around it, so we're using vertical video for that. Whereas anytime you want to publish video that goes on a television, that goes on YouTube, that goes on for an advertisement, you want to figure out if it's going to go for a vertical audience, vertical viewing audience, or horizontal. And you can even shoot video in both formats. You can have a vertical phone setup and a horizontal. There's setups that you can do where you're shooting both types of video for the same content. What it does is now you're enabling multiple audiences of multiple ability to watch and consume your content. Vertical video was popularized by Snapchat. Teenagers, millennials, were using smartphones excessively and we're creating content, we're consuming content. So when you're creating vertical video, it's just going to be consumed on the phone, right? A lot of the apps these days are also supporting vertical video, such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Musically, or their new name as TikTok. So yeah, it all comes down to who's your target audience. Where is this video going to play? If your target audience is somebody who's not in this age group, then you want to create horizontal video. Horizontal video is great for larger televisions, YouTube, larger audience. More general audience, you'll see vertical video, or sorry, more larger audience reach, you want to do horizontal video because that's the standard. Movies, films, they're shot on excessively wide angle, cinemascope, etc. format, anamorphic, you name it, right? They're all horizontal landscape format video. So you want to figure out those things before you start shooting, before you go into your production and figure out what you're going to do. The third point that I talked about was about stabilization. Now I wanted to go into audio, but Rod said, no, we should talk about stabilization because you don't want shaky video. You don't want to present shaky video to your audience. Audience wants to see stabilized video that's shot clean and it's shot so it's stabilized, meaning you're not shaking the camera or there's not a lot of shaky movement happening because that way you have the full attention of your audience, the full attention of the viewer. There's multiple ways to stabilize video. One, have a stable hand. Two, have a tripod. Three, have a three-axis gimbal such as a DJI Osmo, a Smooth. There's many different brands. You get to pick which one you want. The one that I prefer is the DJI Osmo 2. Why? Because it enables you facial tracking. So if you're doing a selfie video, it will track your face with a little green box. And you could be walking, you can be moving around, and it'll track you um, as much as it can. It'll keep you in the center of the frame. So it's a great way to go about shooting video with a gimbal. Again, the cost of these gimbals can vary anywhere from $50 to $160, $300. It all comes down to what's going to serve your purpose. Stabilized video. Tripods is a great way to start. There's multiple ways you can have a tripod. You can have a tripod that's on the ground. You can have a tripod, attach your phone to a mirror on the desktop, wherever it is. As long as your phone, your iPad is stabilized and sitting there while you're recording a video, you're golden. The fourth one is a very, very, very important, and this can either make or break your video. The other half, the better half of video is audio. You gotta make sure that you have either you're talking in a voice that the microphone on the phone will catch and it's easily what's the word? It's easily discernible of what you're talking about, of your sound or your sound. Hmm. Or have a dedicated microphone, an external dedicated microphone just so it can catch your audio, just so it can catch you speaking directly into the microphone is extremely essential. There's several different ways that you can get a dedicated microphone. You can get a Bluetooth headset that will connect to your phone and record audio through this Bluetooth headset. You can use Apple AirPods. You don't need to use both of them. You can just put put one in your ear, and it can easily be hidden with your hair or not showing it to the camera. It doesn't matter. As long as you have good audio coming through, people will watch your video because they can hear what you're saying. So that's number 4. The fifth point that we talked about was sure you've got good audio, but you also want to add a nice soundtrack. A good soundtrack, a subtle sound to set the mood of the video. And it shows through in the beginning of the video. So as soon as you start the video, you have your words, you have your talk going, you're talking, and you got a little music going on, and then you can raise the volume of that music and have your intro, and then you go into the video of what's going on. That's a great way to get people connected in and go and watch. Now, for LinkedIn, this is essentially important because the first when you upload video, the first frame is the thumbnail that LinkedIn will use for your video. In YouTube, you have the option of selecting the different thumbnails, what's going to show on the video list, but on LinkedIn, they always take the first frame. So the first frame, if it's got good information, you can then remove it and go into what you're talking about. Is a perfect way to go about it. So you got music, you've got your intro. What else should I talk about that I wanted to yesterday? Uh, Tip number 6 that I did talk about but didn't label it as such was using of dedicated video apps to record your video. What this enables you is you're able to dial in the perfect setting. You can dial in focus points, you can dial in the color, you can dial in a lot of cool things using dedicated video apps. The app that I suggested everybody should be using is Filmic Pro. Now, Filmic Pro was the one app that was used by Steven Soderbergh to shoot video for his film. It also lets you select your external microphones as well as the different types of resolution, video resolution, aspect ratio, all these things that you might not be able to select when you're shooting using other apps. For video editing, the app that I suggested was Video Leap. So we talked about 5 things so far. Number 1, having good lighting. Figure out your orientation for the purpose that the video is going to be for. And 3, stabilization of your video. Number 4, having good audio. 5, good soundtrack. Now Rod has put together a list, a library of excellent audio that can be accessed to the LinkedIn localnova.com members group. So if you are part of it or you would like access to it, let me know and I can get you the link to sign up. It's free, I believe. Yeah. One of the other important points that I forgot to mention is avoid using digital zoom. Now, I've talked about this on previous episodes, but I just wanted to reiterate here. Do not use digital zoom if you don't need to, especially if you're recording yourself. You can move the camera back and forth, making sure you have the best framing available, the best framing set up, because using digital zoom degrades the quality of your video. If you have a dual lens camera, a dual lens phone, you can switch between the two lenses and get that 50% more close-up shot. So you have the wide-angle lens and then the telephoto lens. Telephoto lens does have a lower f-stop, sorry, a higher f-stop. So if you have good lighting, you should be perfectly fine. But if you're lacking some lighting, then you might want to check your results of what's going on. So yeah, those are some of the tips that I talked about. I was just looking through my notes and I have a list of 40 tips that I've put together. And for that 40 tips, I will be creating a PDF. There's a total of at least 40 items, between 30 to 40 items. It's it's going to be a long list. Great tips for anybody starting videography on the mobile phone, on their iPads, just to get going. Because number one, you don't want to spend thousands of dollars getting dedicated cameras when you're going to be shooting, when you're going to be needing a lot more than just the cameras itself. You need a dedicated computer, you need dedicated everything. But the mobile phone is so powerful now that you can edit these videos that you put together on your mobile device. So, thanks for listening. I hope you come back for some more episodes. It was a great experience speaking to an audience that was paying so much attention. I might have missed some questions. I think some people wanted to ask some questions, and I didn't get a chance to ask them, or they didn't get a chance to speak up. Thank you again so much. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.